All right, for those who are just checking out this review that don't normally watch my channel, and those who do normally watch my channel, I'll just drop a bit of lore around myself. It won't be anything long, so any new people, just give me a sec. So, this series. So, I read the creator of this new series, like his first series in Shonen Jump years ago. It was called like Sahara of the Desert. I had to look back up the name. But it was really interesting. It was like the world had, for the most part, come to like this kind of like desert, almost apocalyptic state where like water is just super scarce. There's barely any plants. And this guy's like had this mission to pretty much, I think it was like to bring back all the flowers and like vegetation in the world. And he had this sword that would turn into different types of these cool like plants and trees that had different effects. It was really neat. Unfortunately, it didn't survive and it got axed. And then he did a series called Golem Hearts. And Golem Hearts, I actually really liked. I liked the theme. I liked the setup of it, and I enjoyed the main character and the structure of it. But unfortunately, it did get axed as well. So now this guy's got a new series, and from what I understand, this like the one shot for this won an award in Japan. I think this year or last year or something. So it's got a little bit of extra kind of like weight to it that it's backed, I think, pretty well in its credibility and just the ideas of it. It looks a little different than the one shot. Like the main character looks a bit different, and his sword is different, but for the most part, it seems like the concept is the same. He's just doing a different weapon. And I do actually like this weapon. Before I even go into the plot and stuff, I do like this. I'm not a huge fan of the regular katana. Like for like a lot of characters. Not entirely, because it's like it just is a very regularly used sword in manga and anime. Not that it's a bad thing. The katana is obviously a very badass weapon. And I know there are variations. I know that this is technically probably not a katana, but, you know, a different kind of Japanese sword. But you essentially know what I'm talking about. But I think this one, the elongated handle on it and the bigger blade definitely makes it look really cool. And I'm wondering if the fact that it's a different blade shape than in the one shot, like if his power is going to be to like form into different swords, because the creature actually formed. What was his name? I think his name was Kusanagi. I have to look back up his name. I'll go through the chapter again when I actually talk about the plot. But he was turning into different things. So I'm guessing he can turn into different swords, and maybe his swords will have different effects. So he's kind of like the Rave Master, which I think is pretty neat. But yeah, I like the kind of like slightly different kind of like take to it. Kind of like the difference for like Ichigo is he at the very start of the series before he got his Shikai. It was pretty much katana, but it was like a Buster Sword katana. It was just this kind of cool tweaked version. Whereas like you can still have like really cool katana characters, but it's just obviously like the most common in anime manga. So it just doesn't stand out as often as say like a character who'd use another series that unfortunately did get axed was Build King. For those who follow my channel, have at least followed for a while. I did like it. You know, they'll probably watch some of my reviews while it's going, but unfortunately it did get axed. But the main character in that used a hammer, and I just thought that was cool because you don't get a lot of main characters where their weapon is a hammer. You're mostly getting swords, and then even in swords, Japanese versions, you're going to get, Japanese media, you're going to get a lot of katanas, which again is fine, but I just really like the kind of slight tweak to it that makes the character stand out. I thought that was actually pretty cool. With Dora, he's got this just really cool longsword. He's already halfway to a Sephiroth style. I thought this was pretty sick. But so the chapter itself, I actually really enjoyed. I like the premise. I enjoyed the Ayashimon series that came out recently, because the premise of that was pretty simple in the first chapter, and as well as this, it's very easy to kind of help you understand. All right, this is what's happening. Because one thing I think that older series, and you know, I can use Build King as an example, is like the older mangaka, they gotta go towards a much new, like faster pace for the newer generation. Samurai 8's another one, because Kishimoto was writing way kind of more slow than how the newer gens are, because like you have to get past that axe line and catch an audience within what is it, like 4 or 5 months of your series, or it gets axed. And we know that, like, on top of that, like the chapters are set behind, so like they probably get told that it's gonna get axed like within that 4-month range. Once it probably hits like chapters like 14, 15, they probably say if it's not doing well, like it's getting canceled. But that was the thing I think that really kind of like hurt some of the series that came out over the last couple of years was just that slower pacing in the beginning. You have to hook people and kind of get them on a steady pace before you end up kind of like getting into a lot of exposition. And Ayashimon was another recent one that it made the first chapter really easy to understand, and it's giving Chunks, I think, as a much more fast digestion of understanding events, and so is this series. And again, the name is it's gonna take me a while to remember the name. Dororon, but like the world essentially, like they have these Mononoke that just kind of cause havoc. They're just kind of like problems every once in a while. Again, thinking about like Bleach, it's kind of like the Hollows if the Hollows were visible. Like they'll just appear at some point, they'll cause havoc, and people have to go take them down. And also, it's just a side note, I really like the main character's color scheme with his power. Like his color scheme by itself is cool, but I think combined with his ability and like not just like the cool art style of his like the energy around his sword when it kind of gets in that cool like spiritual fire, but the color, like the black and blue, and then his outfit is white and red. It just looks really cool in how his setup is. And especially if this series survived, things like forums are probably gonna look sick on him with just the color mashing. And especially with this guy mixing like the kind of drawing styles to kind of give it like different effects. I think it's really cool whenever manga could do that, and they kind of just add like an extra like version of their own spice into a scene by like messing. I guess it's already created by them, but but messing with the art in like a different way, just like some weird tweak to their normal style. But the main character at the very start of the series, he's kind of like reminiscing of times he was in trouble throughout school, because the whole first point is that he is at his mother's grave and saying how despite everything that happened, he was able to graduate high school. So he must be 18 at least. I guess the author, like, he just wants to skip right into kind of like young adult life, not have to do with any school life shenanigans, which I actually can appreciate to a degree. But he's left stuff for his mom. He's got like his diploma, which I wonder if he's going to like I feel like you'd want to put that in like a sealed case and then like figure out a way to kind of like embed it into like the tombstone or something. Like somehow get it attached, or like a glass cover that like you can't just kind of get through, because otherwise it's gonna get rained on or something. But like he also got a picture of her favorite like Korean heartthrob actor and a really big clam, dorayaki. Like I wonder if it's just like his type of clam, or if it's like a type of specialized food in the clam. But I really like this scene also from the very start, because it gave a good understanding of the main character when he's like mentioning he's going to become a samurai. And the samurai, again, that's similar in a comparative, at least, in just kind of like the way that I mean, you can use a lot of series, but I already use Bleach. Kind of like how the Soul Reapers fought against the Hollows. Like they have humans that have like spiritual power that become samurais and that fight back against the Mononoke in order to stop them and save people. But he's like talking to his mom, and there's like a cat that comes by and picks up the big clam, and he's like upset about it, but then he notices this cat is pregnant, so he's like, it's a really nice character thing, because it shows that even though obviously with his flashback that he's a bit of a thug, it gave him I don't think it's more of like a soft side, a more humanized side, because at first obviously he was mad at the cat, but then he's like, this is a pregnant cat, I kind of, it's way more kind of like guilting to be nice to this cat at this point. And he's like, okay, you have it, go feed your kittens and just do life, cat, get out of here, take it. It was just it was a really nice moment, because it showed his kind side, but more again of a understandable human side of like, yeah, that would make sense of why that would kind of like immediately simmer him down, even if he's upset, it has to do with his dead mother and stuff. It's just like, yeah, this is a cat. It's just a stray animal. It's not attacking or being bad. And it's also a pregnant one, so you kind of just want to be nicer to it. But then you have a child being carried away by a Mononoke and a girl who goes and saves him. And I like the energy around it. Again, like I'm wondering how it's going to be in the series. Like, are they going to be different colors? Is he going to use different designs for the different characters? Once we get to the different powers, I think it's going to be really cool. But she ends up killing this Mononoke, saving this little boy, and you have a bunch of people who are like, praising and appreciating, the samurai are helping society and fighting these creatures. And I'm guessing this is going to be the female lead, but we don't get that much of a hint, but obviously she's a recurring character in it. But then we get Dora, and he ends up failing the entrance exam. They check his blood, and I guess like they examine your blood for bits of spiritual energy, and he does, or supernatural energy, not spiritual energy. It's slightly different in the series, but it's just a different wording. It'll be a different structure when we find out about it. But you know what I mean? It's just kind of like it depends on kind of the wording. You don't want to mess up the difference of them, but it's like obviously an understandable one because like aren't Mononoke spirits? Maybe I guess they might be more towards like supernatural kind of like creatures that I don't really know. Obviously the series just started, but he ends up failing because he doesn't have any supernatural energy in his body. And I'm wondering what the 1-for-1 ratio is, because I know there's going to be some people that kind of compare it to obviously stuff like Asta and Deku, who didn't have any powers at the start of the series, but it's like I think it's in My Hero, like it's either 1 in 10 or 1 in 6 people don't have powers or something. So it is obviously way more common to have a power in their series, but it's less common. It's not impossible to have it. There are lots of people that don't have any quirks at all. Whereas with Asta's the only character with no magic, and we don't really know anything about Dora, like in terms of other characters and how much supernatural energy that they have. Like if it's 1 in 5 people, 1 in 10 people, whatever it is, we'll probably find out eventually. But it doesn't seem like it's as alarming as a deal as like say Asta not having energy or not having magic, where it's like that's uncommon entirely in the world. That's weird. But afterwards, he finds out he kind of has this blank, dead-eyed response, where he's just completely astonished by it. But then he like pulls out his sleeves and he like flexes his muscles, and he's like, I've never lost a fight. Test me. And there's this big dude who comes in. This guy is probably like 8 or 9 feet tall, just jacked, and he pushes Dora out of the way, and Dora just kind of like walks over and grabs his arm, and he's like, listen, I'm gonna retake the test. You can go to the back with me. He's kind of just punishing this guy for being an asshole. And at the same time, I like that he's trying to take it again. I thought that was pretty neat. He was like, well, maybe it's a fluke. Maybe I can fix this. But he ends up not passing it. And this is important because obviously at the start, we saw that he, despite issues of, fighting at school, that he wanted to do things to make his mom happy. So he graduated high school as he promised her. He like brings her favorite things, and here we do find in a flashback that his mom wanted him to be a samurai because he just kind of mentions at one point she thought it was a really good idea and she liked the idea of it, because like the samurai are obviously, like he says, public servants. They are going around saving people's lives, and I imagine for her, this kind of troublemaker son who's just very physically strong, him mentioning that, it probably to her was like a really good opportunity for him to kind of like direct his potential and his capabilities towards a really good outlet that obviously can help a lot of people. I thought that was really cool. So obviously now, if he can't achieve this, it's something that's going to eat away at him, because he doesn't just kind of want to do it for a personal, I want to be the, whatever, number one samurai, whatever. It's more about, I just want to become one because it'll make my mom happy. And obviously his mom died, so he wants to do things that kind of please her in the afterlife. Just do things that would make his mom happy and to kind of better himself in life. And I thought that was pretty cool in general. But there's like a part where he goes and kicks a rock, and the rock like bounces off a sign and comes and bops him like right in the nose. And he's like, I can't be mad at the rock. It is 100% my fault. I'm the one that kicked it. And it's like, that's one of those things that I actually personally can relate to, because that's how I would see it. I'd be pissed, but it's like, yes, I can. Oh, there's literally zero other person that could have been like because of them. It's not like an accident. Like luck just wasn't on my side. You're the one that kicked the rock. So all the actions of rock being kicked are because of you. And I thought that was just really funny. I like that kind of note of him. And it kind of, again, it gives him a level of kind of like humbled status, where he's not like just a hothead, where he's obviously really strong and he's he's ready to act when he needs to, but he's just like a post humbling thug. Like he's already kind of like worked down of being like, I kind of got to get my shit together thing. And he ends up seeing this little girl who's being chased by this big Mononoke, but there's also a Mononoke that's kind of trying to save her. And this is obviously the one from the cover, like this little spirit dude. And I don't know what it's supposed to be. I actually want to figure out if anybody knows what it is in Japanese lore, like what kind of folklore creature it is. I would definitely appreciate it, because I don't know what it is, but I'm willing to bet with like all the other creatures that this is something from like Japanese mythology. And we see him transform a couple times when the guy's attacking. First, it becomes like a box. It becomes just like kind of like this hard cube. And at one point, he becomes like a bear trap. He becomes like a kind of like a little shield, like pretty much like a little square wall. And I thought this was pretty cool, because obviously the main character would have to get his main character power somewhere. And it like the whole joining of these two isn't pretty interesting, because like we don't find out much about this Mononoke, but we do find out that he is like he just seems to be much more kind of like humane. Like he seems pretty chill. We don't know much about like them in depth, obviously chapter 1, but it is something nice that we get at the very beginning, that we can kind of get an understanding of this character. But after that point, Dora goes to try and attack this creature. Doesn't seem to do anything. This is a supernatural being at the end of the day, and it's obviously a powerful one. We don't know the full scale of where it sits, but obviously compared to him, it is able to just completely knock him around. He's taking damage. He's obviously bleeding like out his mouth, and he just looks like he's already kind of beaten up. And there's a really nice part where he's looking at the other Mononoke, and they're kind of like talking, and he's like, the other dude's like, sorry, I couldn't protect you. He's obviously not only sad, he saved the little girl, like combined, they got the little girl away, but he wasn't able to help Dora. And I thought that was kind of neat, because he seems like he's in tears. He's upset he couldn't, like he was unable to go help this dude. So I'm wondering what his deal is and his kind of like backstory is. That he just seems to be one that wants to protect people, wants to help, and it feels really bad if he's unable to do anything. So that's just one of those things that we're going to have to wait a couple chapters to really find out. But with that, I really like that Dora had that kind of like moment where it's like he kind of didn't want to really trust or associate with this one, because obviously one killed his mom, but he knows that like this one is trying to help people. And at that point, he's like, listen, let's work together and do this. And I think he just kind of realizes like this guy's just, it doesn't really matter if even if all the other Mononoke are evil, this one, it doesn't seem to me, and it clearly is trying to help. So it's like, you have to give this guy a case-by-case scenario. And even if it's like all of them but this guy are bad, it's like, if this guy is good, obviously like you can at least trust him somewhat. And, you know, he already demonstrated that he was that he was a kind and like helpful Mononoke, not one of these aggressive ones trying to eat people. But there's like a brief period where the Mononoke runs off and goes to like go eat some kids, and it's like, oh, I gotta just kind of eat up and then kind of run out of here. And that's when Dora comes in, and he just cuts him, his like arms clean off, saves these kids, and you have this cool energy around. Again, I want to know more about like the power system of this world. But then the creature like ends up having like these spirit claws. Like he says that his supernatural energy arms are even more powerful than his normal ones. And when he's doing that, I wonder if like he regenerated these, it looks like it, or if these are literally like spirit kind of arms, like they don't have a physical form. I think it's literally just he's regenerated his arms and then put energy on them. I feel like that's the way more kind of like likely thing, because there doesn't seem to be any hinting that they're kind of like ghostly arms. But Dora just kind of goes in, he just gets like this kind of cocked back stance, and there's a really cool paneling in the cutscene, like when he slashes, where it's like half of the scene, half of the next page, it's just like a black rectangle, and it has the text bubble of him saying that he believes him, and then the next one is like the same kind of like size box, but you have a cut and you see Dora in there, and you just see his eye, kind of like these fleshy blood liquid strands in between, and you get this kind of like clean upward slash that just cut this dude right in half. And I thought that was just really cool. I thought visually that looked really sick of how it was just demonstrated in its, and like in the art style and like the panel dynamic, but obviously the power of this weapon. But after that point, there's just like this kind of like rundown, like there's a kind of like talking between them. Kusanagi, the Mononoke, and Dora end up kind of like having some understanding, and he's like, there's like a funny part where it's like he's hungry and he's like, do you eat people? I think that was a funny part, because he's like trying to intimidate and question him while it's clear like, well, he's hungry. It's like, hey, do you want to go get some food with me? But the Mononoke is like, well, I guess he has a name. Kusanagi's like, I don't want to eat people, and he looks really worried about it too. So clearly it's not like an act. Like he's definitely got like a strong kind of like backstory that's put in like this, or maybe there's way more deeper things going on with their race. Also, just a side note, what made me laugh is he looks like I have to look, he looks like a Pokemon. He looks like one of the slugs. I can't remember what their names are off the top of my head for the life of me. Shelios, I think. I don't know. It's gonna bother me because I can picture both of them. The one that has like different colored forms for different areas in the region, but like the small like last bit I think it was neat on the chapter. Besides like just kind of like talking when that's like he's discussing like together they're gonna form, like they're gonna help create a happy and kind world, that, you know, referring to what Dora's mother said to him about what like he was gonna do. And then there's a part where that girl like goes and sees the dead Mononoke and is like, oh, well, somebody got here before me. There wasn't any word on like a samurai that was like dispatched and that was going towards this location. On top of that, this was a pretty powerful one, so it's like, was there a mid-ranked samurai come over here? I wonder how many ranks there are and like the hierarchy of it. I kind of hoping we find out a little bit about it, because that to me is like a good stuff. Like, imagine if there's like 4 or 5 and it's like low, mid, high, maybe like I don't know what it'd be, because it'd be like top and then like some form of ascended tier. I don't know. I feel like 4 or 5, but it's like, it makes sense for me if like the main character, like just in general, like main characters generally start out fairly strong in Shonen. It really just depends on where they're at. And if it's like a chunk above average is where I feel like he's at, and that to me is pretty good. Like I can just see it as like we see kind of like some other samurais and he's able to beat them. But it's like once we start getting the characters with like technique and experience, those will be the people that start pushing Dora if they ever get into fights. But anyway, other than that though, I liked it. I thought this was pretty cool. I actually haven't looked into anybody's opinion online yet. I haven't looked at any of the like social media responses, and I'm definitely gonna go look, because I am interested in the series. I like the designs and the style and the art and the themes of it. It just seems pretty neat, so I'm hoping it survives. I do like it, and I like this author's work before, and on top of that, I'm really hoping he succeeds, because obviously he's had 2 canceled series before this, and it must really suck to get like essentially finally get a chance to kind of like flex and like do your series in like the pretty much the biggest shonen magazine, and you get canceled, and then you get canceled twice. So it's like, this is a 3rd time. If this doesn't work out, I'm hoping he would go to a different magazine if they're gonna not let him do anymore. But I definitely want to see more of the series. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video, but for the like button, subscribe, and check out my other videos. But I appreciate everybody's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.